Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 76 of Be With Me. Yesterday we talked about Peter and Jesus restoring him, but then just after that, he says you're going to lose your ability. You're going to lose even your ability to do what you want with your hands. You're going to lose your ability to do what you want with your feet. You're going to age. You're going to be in a location you don't want to be. You're going to wear clothing you don't want to wear. And you're going to lose your independence and abilities. And all along, I want you to be faithful and entrusting and glorify me. In other words, am I enough? Is Jesus enough for you? So today, just after that news, Peter is going to say, he's going to turn to John and say, hey, what about him? And Jesus basically tells him, you're asking the wrong question. I want you to follow me. So listen with me. We're in almost the last words of the Gospel of John, John chapter 21. We're going to start in verse 20. Peter turned and saw the disciple. Let me start one verse before that in 19. He said this to show by what kind of death he was to glorify God. And after this, he said, follow me. Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved, that's John, following them, the one who had been reclining at table close to him, John again, and said, Lord, who is it that is going to betray you? And had said, Lord, who is it that is going to betray you? When Peter saw him, he said to Jesus, Lord, what about this man? Jesus said to him, if it is my will that he remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. So the saying spread among the brothers that the disciple was not to die. Yet Jesus did not say to him he was not to die, but if it is my will that he remain until I come, what is that to you? This is the disciple who is bearing witness about these things and who has written these things, and we know his testimony is true. So Jesus says some very challenging things here. He says to Peter, what is that to you? What about your duty and your devotion? It is to follow me. So Peter asks, hey, what about this man, particularly in comparison? What about others? What if their path is different? What if their path is, as I see it, better, maybe more glorious? Or conversely, what if their path is worse? Maybe that would call my faith into question. So this comparison of why did you give this other person, why did you give this gal skills and resources and blessings that, in my opinion, I don't have? Or conversely, why did you give them impediments and challenges and maybe handicaps? And I think one of two responses can happen when we do the comparison game. One is jealousy. That is, if we think about the person as having lots of positive things, and then maybe excuses that, well, that's why I haven't been faithful to you, as you didn't give me enough, Lord. Jesus just cuts through all that today and says, I think this primary spiritual task is to follow me. So even if you're given the road of John, and John did live a long time, actually, he didn't live forever like they were accusing him of doing. John's task, follow him. Or if you went out like a blaze of glory in Peter and got crucified upside down, as church history says, his job also, follow me. John's job, independently, follow me. Peter's job, independently, follow me. So this following, no matter what our situation, whether that be our body situation or our health or maybe our relationships or maybe the things we've been given, our IQ and physical abilities, or maybe the church that we go to, or maybe the pastor that we follow, or the spouse that we're with, or maybe the parents that we've been given, or the talents we have, or the country that we come from, or the persecution that we endure, or work that we have, or frankly, the suffering that we have to do. The question is, are we faithfully following? And I think Jesus encourages us is to keep the main thing, which is not to look at others, maybe not to complain about ourselves, but to keep following him. What is that to you if another walks a slightly different path? Now, I think this is not a rebuke of fellowship by any means. In fact, I think it's a call to fellowship, to stay with one another's. So this question of what if following you in my world doesn't look like following you in another's world, or my difficulties are different than another's. So I think it's a big issue of what do I do when things don't go maybe as I wish, when there's decisions I don't like, or situations I don't like, or realities I don't like, or health issues that I don't like. This fundamental issue of trusting Jesus. Will you be enough? Can I trust you? Can I glorify you in difficult situations? So I think he rebukes Peter as Peter turns and says, "Hey, what about that guy?" As he compares, I think he says to Peter, "You're asking the wrong question. The question isn't, hey, what about others? What about that other guy?" The question is, am I following you? What does it look like for me to trust you and to follow you on the path that you've given? And then more fundamentally is, are you Jesus? Are you trustworthy? Will I be okay with you? What can I do to faithfully do my job, my task with the temptations that I face? So I think that Jesus rebukes Peter here today for asking the wrong question. The wrong question is, hey, what about that guy? The right question is, can I follow you? Can I trust you? So my brothers and sisters, maybe you're facing a situation today where you're tempted to ask the wrong question. And Jesus refocuses the answer to follow me. Thanks for listening.